Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Is it time for Graham Potter to go? Is it time for Graham Potter out? Is it time for the sack for Graham Potter? One thing's for sure, it's unacceptable with that level of quality for that football club at Stamford Bridge to be losing to Southampton 1-0 in such a big game where you haven't won in quite a while. And yes, I believe, and I've done videos here, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I've done videos saying Potter needs time and now is not the time to sack him. But I didn't think things were as bad as they were. You were watching that game back today, and there are big issues there. But actually, I'm going to be controversial here and say I still would not be sacking Graham Potter. And the reason for that is very clear. And I've had Chelsea fans telling me to F off, it's not your club, this, that and the other. Exactly. Get your comments in below. It's up to you. But I've consistently said that I would stick by Graham Potter. And I would stick by Graham Potter for a multitude of reasons. The first one is, in a footballing sense, those players are not suitable for the way he wants to play. And I saw this last year with Rangnick, who got absolute joyous momentum when he came in as, he's the architect of pressing, he's going to be great. And then when it didn't work, he was a buffoon. And the same thing's now happened with Potter. People seem to forget that his style of football at Brighton has been revolutionary for a club of that stature and worked consistently year in, year out against very, very good teams. Chelsea are nothing like Brighton. They don't look like Brighton. There are players in that team who are either completely finished, and how can you be finished in your early 20s, or are downing tools in a Chelsea shirt, which has happened before. It happened with Villas-Boas. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be looking at two big things here. It's so easy in football to scapegoat the manager, and the manager may well get sacked, and maybe the manager does need to be sacked, but riddle me this. £200 million gets spent on Thomas Tuchel by new owners. Within a month, they sack him. That's ridiculous. And it's a ridiculously difficult job for anybody who comes in to take on a team a month and a half after the transfer window has closed and you've just spent £200 million on that manager. It's disruptive. It's difficult. You've got no pre-season. We've spoke about this. Loads of injuries. But that doesn't excuse Southampton today. We'll come on to that. And then in January, you spend £300 million on players for the new manager, Potter, and people are saying let's sack him less than a month later. How ludicrous is it for a football club to spend £200 million in the summer, sack that manager a month later, then spend £300 million in the January transfer window and sack that manager a month later? Do you know how embarrassingly stupid that looks for a football club? It's ridiculous. £500 million spent in 6 months on two managers and you sack them both within a month. I'm sorry, at some point you've got to grow a pair and go, we look stupid if we do this. And what does the next manager come in and do? Oh, Pochettino comes in. Well, hold on a minute. There's £200 million spent there on players that I wouldn't have wanted that Tuchel's got. There's £300 million spent on Potter that I wouldn't have wanted. Oh, don't worry, we'll give you another £300 million. Oh, what happens then? And then you sack me up. You're just creating a problem. And I think that the stark reality is that maybe Chelsea have made a lot of mistakes here, their new owners, but they've got to rectify those. Who's running that football club? Because I saw Chelsea this afternoon against Southampton, and in the first half they were terrible. In the second half, I can't believe they've not put the ball in the back of the net twice. Like, we're not talking half chances, we're talking just composed finishing. Now, are they missing on purpose? There was a cross from Sterling into Mount, which I think he should get his head on. There was a finish from Sterling I think he should finish. There were others. They're not creating chances. They're just not putting them away. Havertz, I don't even know why he came on. There's a shot on and he cuts it back to somebody who should have scored. He should be shooting himself. Everybody wants to take an extra touch. To me, it looks like the Chelsea players are trying to get the manager the sack. And I tell you what, if I was the owner of that football club, I'd be all over that. Because player power, in that sense, is a disgrace. They are letting down the players. They're letting down the club. And they're letting down the manager. And they're letting down the owners. And some of these players are brand new. So for me, it's a really difficult thing for Chelsea. And the easy option is to sack the manager. But if I was the owner, and you've got to look at it like that, if I'm the owner, this is very embarrassing on my watch. I've committed to something financially twice, and I'm going to sack the manager twice. It makes me look a fool in my first not even year at the club. So I think the answer, if I look at it from a board perspective, from a fan perspective, you want him sacked. Let's be honest. The comments are going to be full of sack Potter. I appreciate that, and I completely get that because it's your club, and it's what you want, and the club is not doing very well, and you shouldn't be losing to Southampton at home. And ultimately, if you blame the manager for that, that's absolutely fine, and that's your choice. But I look at it from an ownership point of view, and that's my club. I own it. I run it. I am answerable to the fans, and I can't. If you're going to sack a manager within a month of spending a load of money on them every time there's bad results, you're going to sack a lot of managers. At some point, you've got to make the unpopular choice, and the unpopular choice may well be to stick by Graham Potter. But I tell you what, I'm not just going to sit back and go, let's see how it works. You've got to take action here as the owner of the football club. Yes, Graham Potter's got to be in the office tomorrow morning. I don't care whether it's Sunday and he wants to go for a walk. He's in my office tomorrow morning. Why the hell is that happening, Graham? And don't talk to me about a tough trip back from Europe or players being tired or having to make changes. I want to know why we're not beating Southampton at home, because that's not acceptable. And I'm telling you now, that's a warning. That's your first warning. Then I'm speaking to individual players. I'm speaking to players that are influential in that team, Kovacic, Mason Mount, etc. I'm speaking to them and I'm going, what the bloody hell is going on? No smiley anymore. What is going on anymore? Because that is not you. So are you telling me that you're done? You want to leave? No, boss, no. Right. What? Well, why are you playing so badly then? Are you telling me the manager's not very good? And if they're telling me the manager's not very good, I'm telling them, well, look, at the end of the day, there's the door, put a transfer request in, because that's my pick. And these are the reasons I've picked him. And he ain't going anywhere. So sort yourself out. You're a professional footballer for Chelsea Football Club. You've got till the end of the season. If you want to go at the end of the season, you go. Pull your socks up and get on with it. Because I'll tell you for free, if you are dropping your levels of effort as a collective to try and get this manager out, it isn't happening. So pull your socks up and get on with the job. And I would speak to as many of the players as I can, because that Chelsea team should be doing a lot better. I'd then pull Potter back in and say, look, I'm in charge of this football club. You've had a warning. I've spoken to the players. You need to pick your best team and stick with it, because you're changing it all the bloody time. Pick a team, stick with it. Pick a system, stick with it. Because you're losing the fans, Graham, and you need to stick with it. You cannot pick one team, make a change at half-time, make 2 changes at half-time, make another 2 changes within 10 minutes, pick a different team the next game. If you're here to stay and you're here to build something, this season cannot be test it and try. You've got to build a system. I've given you the opportunity, go out and do it. It's a difficult situation for Chelsea. I still believe it will click, but I don't know how long they're going to get time to do that. Football's a funny business. I think if Roman Abramovich was in charge, Potter would get sacked. No matter what, that they've just got to make the change. And maybe they still have that legacy thought. But to be honest, if I'm ranking the blame here, it's the owners, it's the players, and then it's Potter. And everyone's got blame. But I think that I watched Chelsea against Dortmund, they should have won. I watched Chelsea against Southampton, they should have won. Why are they not putting the ball in the back of the net? They're creating the chances, why are they not putting the ball in the back of the net? And that's a big question. And I will always agree, if the players are down in tools to get rid of the manager, you've got a big problem. And that's not something the manager can necessarily change. The club has to step forward. I think it would be ridiculous to sack Potter now. I really, really do. But it doesn't mean it would happen. I think you're setting a dangerous precedent, like I say, to spend 200 million on Tuchel and sack him a month later, to spend 300 million pounds on Potter and sack him a month later. But it's completely unacceptable to lose to Southampton. So I watch with intrigue what would happen. It makes no difference to me. I would stick with him, push through to the end of the season and see where you are. You're mid-table. If you go into the bottom half, there's probably a decision to be made in the summer. But I would push through, and I would run that club properly. I would run it properly. I would be having those conversations with coaches and players and sorting this out, because it's not acceptable to lose at home to Southampton at Stamford Bridge like that. I don't feel they're far off, but I think there is a lot of problems around the team constantly changing, continuity, and they need to resolve that. I mean, at the end of the day, they lost to a set piece from James Ward-Prowse, who can score set pieces, but they've got to put the ball in the back of the net, and they're not doing it. Anyway, get your comments in. I felt I had to respond to this because I have been, saying that I think Potter should stay. I still do, but there's big problems at Chelsea, definitely.